Hello and welcome everybody to a new season, a new edition of Aspire to Inspire and Embrace the Power Network production, where we highlight incredible individuals who are making a difference one person at a time. I'm your host, Dr. Jennifer Blalock, Chief Energy Officer of Ingenuity Solutions. And tonight it's my pleasure to welcome Mr. Evan Marks, who is the founder and CEO of M1 Performance Group. Evan, how are you tonight?
I'm doing quite well. Thank you for having me. You know, nothing like a nice 7:30 o'clock podcast, which I've been looking forward to all day. So I'm very excited for this.
You have inspired all of us. We've been checking out your stuff online, and we wanted our viewers to know about, really what is the essence of performance coaching? How did you get involved in it, Evan? What inspired you about it, and why should people care?
You know, it's so interesting. I think nowadays where mental performance, mental capital, or mental health, or mental well-being is so important. I don't know if it was COVID. I think it happened before COVID, but I think COVID brought it to the center stage. And when you talk about athletes like Simone Biles and Tom Brady just discussed about his mental health. But the people I work with are athletes, CEOs, C-suite executives, and Wall Street. But my background, before I'm 52 years old, I graduated University of Pennsylvania. I was an economics philosophy major. But my whole career was Wall Street for almost 25 years. But I knew something was different. You know, I was a kid growing up, an identical twin brother. My older brother was handicapped. My dad wasn't around. And it was always just go, go, go. Do what you got to do. But I knew there was something missing. Mm-hmm. And it took me a long time, but I realized, there's more to this game, there's more to this life than just making money.
Sure.
And for me, it was really, having a brother who was handicapped my whole life, about compassion and empathy. Having a father who was addicted to crack cocaine and wasn't around.
Sure.
And then my twin brother just doing what we did, but there was always something missing. And I knew there was a part of me like, what is going on? I was an athlete at University. I was a lacrosse guy. Blew my knees out twice.
Oof.
And my whole identity as a student athlete was gone. And I couldn't figure out what was wrong.
Sure.
And then you obviously try to fill those voids with things that are not productive.
Right.
And I don't need help. Who needs help? And then I finally realized, something is really wrong here.
Yeah.
And that started to open me up to the world of possibility, the world of clarity, the world of improvement. But more than that, just not like I can get better, just keep doing this. I want to know why. And then I realized after 25 years, I can merge the why and the how. And luckily, I had coaches along the way who were incredibly profound in my life. And I realized at 46 that I had to make a change. Now, I would like to say to you, Jennifer, that my change was on my own, but it wasn't.
Right.
I thought I had a heart attack.
Oh, wow.
But it disguised itself as a massive panic attack. Never had one. Top of my career. Everything was good.
Sure.
2 gorgeous daughters, beautiful wife. Things looked good on top. But you know what wasn't good? Me.
Yeah.
Between the ears, in the soul, something was way off, and I knew it forever.
Right.
And I had this opportunity. I had some great coaches. I had a therapist who was my coach also.
Sure.
And it just so happened a coach of mine, who I was no longer working with, asked me one day, what are the odds, Evan, you come work with me? It was one of those moments where I'm like, is this really happening? But I'm about to take a 98% haircut from Wall Street to pursue something that I've always wanted to do.
Sure.
And I talked to my identical twin brother, Steve, and I'm like, what do you think? He goes, how you going to do this? I go, I don't know yet. But if I don't do this now, there's no way I'm ever going to do it. And I took that leap. I took that courage. I took that, I always tell people the fear of embarrassment, the fear of rejection. The greatest fear of all is the fear of regret.
100%.
100%. And so I leaned into that. I said, Ev, you've taught yourself so much. The worst case scenario is you fail.
Right.
The real worst case scenario is you never do it. So now I look back at 7 years now. I started my own company in January, and I'm not thank you very much. It wasn't linear by any
Right.
stretch
Of course.
of the imagination, but I really took everything I've learned, how I coach, to really embed it in how I want to be. And it was really amazing. Yeah. So I'm extremely happy to be here. It's been a hell of a journey. I'm 52 years old, like I said earlier. I've just started, which is, to me, it's pretty amazing. Yeah. And I'm very happy about it.
Well, you've said so many wonderful things there. First of all, I'm 51, and I will tell you, Evan, I really feel like it's our age group. By the way, I tell everybody we're 50 fine. Just let everybody know that, okay? The hair is good, we look good, we feel good, but we feel good.
I did try to dye this once, and it was disaster. But yeah, I agree with you.
Don't know. Be who we are. We got to embrace it. But I would say this, that, and it may have been COVID, it may have been other things. All of us, I think, are more in tune than ever with the head and the heart, right? We've all, you're a high achiever. I'm a high achiever. We both overcame adversity. I can completely relate to your experience. My father was not in my life. I grew up in a single parent household below the poverty level. My mom had an 8th grade education and had a mental illness. So no one in my family went to work. People don't believe me because guess what? The only thing I'm great at is work, right? I taught my daughter, who is 26 and a student athlete, just work, it's how you define yourself, right? But I also then along the way, there, but for the grace of God, go I, appreciated that my superpowers are nothing fills my cup more than helping other people identify their true potential and their true path. And I tell people a couple of things. One, don't die a secret. Who wants to not share your talents, right? Why, and if you don't tell me how wonderful you are, Evan, if you don't share your story, I'm not going to know. Why would you want to tell that beautiful story? And you talked about regret and fear. One thing I've come to learn at 51 is any decision I make that is motivated by fear of is never a good decision. If I make decisions rooted in love of myself, love of my community, love of my talents, love of other people, I know it's going to be, it may require an extra leap of faith or courage, but I agree with you 110%. Fear is what holds us back. It's that love, it's that courage. That's at the root of all that we do as human beings. And the other thing, no one ever says at the end of their life, I should have worked more, or I took advantage of too many opportunities. I took too many opportunities. Nobody says that. So I admire and I really honor what you're doing. So you've been doing this since January. What's been the reception? How are you engaging with athletes, with corporations, with companies, with individuals? And what are the results that they're seeing by working with you?
It's interesting what you said, though. I think we all have to live in this world of reality, right? And these perceived negative emotions, fear of this, fear of that. Right. I think they're real.
Yeah.
I've never met anybody. I deal with, talking to Navy SEALs, to incredible athletes, CEOs, incredible traders. Nobody's fearless. It's impossible. It's not true.
Right.
We all have fear, whether it's fear of embarrassment, judgment, fear of inadequacy, whatever it may be. We all have it. Right now, so my practice is based on modern psychoanalysis, which is the past, learned behavior, how the brain is wired early on, to actually the latest research in neuroscience, neuroplasticity, how we can actually rewire the brain. But I think it's very important for everybody here that your past is real. You may have been a victim in the past,
right?
But by no means do you need to live in victimhood. And I think, to me, that's extremely encouraging, right? So feelings of shame, abandonment, whatever it may be, they're real. But to know that we're able to feel, give yourself permission to feel, and that we have the ability to change, to actually rewire the way we want to be. First of all, that is 100% research related.
Sure.
Two, it's extremely empowering. So to dismiss how we feel doesn't help us. Acknowledge it. I'm embarrassed. I'm nervous. I'm scared. Good. Everybody is.
Right.
But we have this ability as human beings to choose to become conscious of how we want to behave. So my job, and I'll answer this question. I just had to say it a little bit.
I loved all
Make
that.
the unconscious conscious, right? To bring
Right.
things, there's resistance. Make it work through it a little bit.
Sure.
Where are we starting from? It's not a punishment to look back and to discover and explore. It's actually rewarding because we know now that we have the power, the ability, the opportunity, the responsibility to be the authors of this an incredible experience.
Absolutely.
And we know it's not A to B. We know it's not linear. But to know that I have a choice to be conscious enough to behave a way that I can thrive, not survive from the past, because that no longer serves us sometimes.
Right.
I'm not saying everything doesn't serve us, but certain things don't any longer. And we have the responsibility, the opportunity to actually choose how we behave. And the miraculous thing about that is that in our brains, we start forming these new experiences, right? We know now in science, the brain is always predicting. You're predicting what I'm about to say. You're predicting what somebody's going to do. How am I going to feel about this?
Sure.
And often that leads behavior. But as we start to be conscious and more conscious of our behavior, aware of how we feel, we start to form new experiences. And what that does, it actually causes new crevices in the brain. So now when we start to predict into the future, which is obviously based on past experiences,
right,
we're making the pool bigger. Wait a second. I'm allowed to be nervous and afraid, but I can actually do this. I've done this before. Wait a second. So nervousness to me makes me more dialed in.
Love it.
Where nervousness in the past was I got to run away. Wait a second. That no longer served me. So I'm not playing tug of war with these emotions, perceived negative ones. By the way, joy and anger, they come back to the middle.
Right.
You can't stay in joy forever. You can't stay in anger forever, right? It's a feeling. But to know that and know that, and that's intellectual, right? To know emotionally that this is, when we're born, emotions are first, intellect second. But to know that we have the ability now through repetition and consciousness to change athletes, C-suites, Wall Street, anybody,
right,
is amazing. Now, does it take hard work? Is it sound easy? It's not easy.
No.
But you know what? When we start to compound, 4 and 4 sounds like nothing. 8 and 8 sounds like nothing. But as you start to gain this momentum, all of a sudden you look back and you go, how'd this happen? It's really, I call it aggressive patience. Being able to sit in that pocket, give yourself a little bit more. Be a little patient, I'm working out, I feel good. No, I don't see anything. Just stay a little longer. Be a little more patient with yourself. All of a sudden, wait a second, where did this bicep come from? Wait a second, why did I just do that? I usually don't do that. Imagine the momentum that starts.
Yeah.
It affects your belief system, what you're capable of doing.
Right.
Right? That's why motivation is a very fleeting thing.
Sure.
But when we start to work on ourselves, right, the internals lead the externals. We all have this ability. We just have to give ourselves a chance to actually see it. Seeing it happens, it seems like the 8th step, you see it.
Right.
But to have that belief system to push it a little further, a little bit longer.
Yeah.
Right. But by the way, this is for everybody.
Wow.
Right? So, when we talk about overachievers, if I can add one thing.
Sure.
Overachievers are not interested in progress.
Okay.
They're committed to it. So that means they stay in the pocket a little longer. Because they have a belief that it's going to happen. It may not happen yet, but it's going to happen. It's a big difference.
I love that. You have so much to unpack there. But one thing I wanted to really kind of hone in on, and I love your videos and your, I've looked at a lot of on your website. One thing that was really compelling to me is so often when I'm working with people, when I'm trying to help people, and it can be the most empowering and exciting thing, but it also can be frustrating when you're trying to coach somebody when they're stuck. And you and I both know no decision is a decision, right? And so I love how the work that you're doing is helping people be able to make decisions, which can be the difference between, an achiever and someone who just kind of stays there, someone who rises within the organization, someone who's a winner, highly competitive, those kinds of things. What are some tips you give people so that they can become more adept at making good, sound, solid decisions?
So, the art of decision making, right?
Yeah.
There's no such thing as the right decision. Only time tells.
Yeah.
Right. So I want to make sure my clients are making the best decisions they can.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I can't guarantee they're the right one. Right. Time tells, like I just said. But if we're in a pocket where we make the best decisions we can, right? So that means we have a feeling. Okay. We don't go into autopilot. We give ourselves mental space to pause, to maybe ask a question. Like self-exploratory questions are so important because it puts us in the seat of influence in our unconscious.
Sure.
Like, have you ever been to a meeting? The guy or woman asking the questions is in the seat of influence. They're asking the questions. They're curious, right? They're asking. We have the same ability in our own lives. So if I can slow down people to speed up. Now, slowing down doesn't mean taking your foot off the gas. Right. What it actually means is the art of intentionality. Be intentional. When I put this down, I'm going to do this. When I do this, I want to do this. It starts to build a mental foundation. So when we're able to build a strong mental foundation, the beauty of that is that it's just like a house. We build the next one. We build the next one. And we get to leverage that. But that is repetition. That is patience with yourself. Progress is extremely elusive sometimes. Sit in it for a second more. Right? So now how do we do that? It's interesting, Jennifer. People are like, okay, what are the goals? So when people ask me, am I going to see results? You know what I tell them? I go, I have no idea.
Right.
What do you mean you have no idea? You tell me in 2 weeks, I go, definitely not 2 weeks. There's not a chance. I will never guarantee that ever.
Right.
However, I will tell you this much. If we have a plan, have structure in place, today will look different in 2 weeks if we're committed to what we want to do.
Right.
I can't guarantee you anything because, like Jennifer, you and I grew up differently. Our experiences are completely different.
Sure.
I don't know your starting point. I don't know my starting point. Right? I mean, I know my starting point.
Yeah.
But to set goals when I don't know where, you got to work through a couple things. We got to know where we're starting. Because if you tried to set goals for the last 20 years, it hasn't worked. How would you expect it to work now?
Absolutely. What's different? Yeah. You're repeating the same behaviors and having it,
and you think it looks different
for a different outcome. And you should have learned. You've touched the stove and it burns. It's going to burn again.
But now you think you're in California now because you moved from New York, that the stove's not the same. It's the same.
Yeah.
So the question is, what is the common denominator? You.
Absolutely. 100%. Yeah. No, I love that. I love that. Obviously you're based in New York City and you work with some really, my daughter lived in New York for 2 years. I love it. One of my favorite cities in the world, but we both know it moves fast. And, feelings are not things that, as you mentioned, it's not easy. This is not easy work. How do you sell somebody who's a high-powered, highly influential mover and shaker in, Wall Street, whatever, on being vulnerable, or an athlete on the power of being vulnerable?
It's one of those questions. First of all, it's phenomenal, right? This is like, hey, let's go do it. We can do it. Rah, rah, rah. That's not what I do for a living.
Right.
Right. I mean, I do speak with passion and intensity.
Sure.
I am a New Yorker and I believe what I do because I believe people have a capability gap. And I think they've repeated behaviors that just haven't served them. I know the possibility. So that is my passion. However, when you try to tell somebody, hey, listen, man, let's talk about your childhood. because we got to unravel it a little bit to form a foundation you can leverage off of. When did this work? I have no idea. But what's so interesting is people like curiosity is one of the greatest things ever.
I agree. Yeah.
Right? Curiosity in its nature is information seeking.
Sure.
So let me ask you a question. I'll say somebody. What have you done hasn't worked? You want to get curious? How about we look at it from a different angle?
Right.
Like, but I think people have been so fed up. They've knocked their head against the wall so many times. I'm like,
sure.
Why don't we do something different?
Absolutely.
Not that it's worked for me, because that's projection.
Right.
However, this could get extremely interesting. And so I was at a firm before I started M1 Performance Group, and all my clients came with me. Now, everybody started the same way. What are we doing? Well, you want to hear about how I was raised, just so you can get a starting point? I go, yeah.
Yeah.
Right. I went back to school for this at 46 for psychoanalytical theory. And then I went back for neuroscience to understand how the brain works. Be like, really?
Yes.
I go, really? Swear to God. My first gig ever was 6 months into training at Hendrick Motorsports with Jimmy Johnson and his pit crew team in Charlotte.
Wow.
With this stuff on.
Yeah.
Working with these amazing individuals. And we started just talking.
Yeah.
And it was amazing. And I know the effect it has. I'm not saying this works in 2 weeks. And you know what? It can't work in 2 weeks.
Right.
However, behavior can happen quickly. Behavioral shift, mind shift, how we think of possibilities and curiosity can shift rather quickly.
Sure.
And so now my clients have been with me for 6 years, right? So we build foundation, we raise, we leverage, but they've bought in. They become really, and I'm sure you'll agree with this, they become incredible students of themselves.
Love it.
Of the possibility. Like when you're telling me I can be angry and still act this way, I said, well, behavior changes before feelings. Oh, really? I don't believe you. It's all right. You don't have to believe me.
Yeah.
Let's put some repetition in. Let's put some practice in. Let's see. And so now all these guys and girls, men and women, they're expanding, right? My goal is to stretch people, not snap them. Right?
I love that.
Snapping brings you back, backs you to the familiar, which is survival.
Right.
So there's a way as a coach. I love discomfort. My wife's like, you're nuts. I won't eat for 5 days. I have cold baths in my house, saunas. I've done triathlons, all this stuff. And I press myself because I'm a guinea pig.
Right.
But there's a certain amount of pressure I want people to be under. Where it's almost like a privilege, right? We can really push people. But you have to know where that level lies as a coach.
It's true.
And I'm sure I'm preaching to the choir on this.
No, this is great though, because I want people to hear this, right? That, there's so many people out there who don't feel fulfilled, who want more, who have that, like you were talking about, you knew something wasn't right. Something was missing, right? And we can go our whole lives. And sometimes we say, well, it's too late, right? I'm 50, I'm 60, I'm this, I'm that. So, right? You can't change the past, but you can change this very moment and change the trajectory of what the future looks like. How do people stay engaged in the work that you're doing with them? You said it's kind of, you have different levels of relationships. Some people are in it for 6 years, et cetera. Where is this, in terms of how do they then take ownership of the journey and integrating it into daily practice?
Well, first of all, ownership is you, right? So I'm not an accountability coach.
Sure.
I'm not a motivational coach because one day I'm gone.
Right.
So I know consistency with evidence builds confidence, period. So I want to make sure the people that I serve, who are my clients, their momentum is internal. Their confidence is under the radar. Their belief system is theirs, not mine.
Right.
Right. So what happens is in the end, I become a mental consultant. I'm a big part of their lives. right? Where the truth is the truth. Because remember, and you know this, I'm not here to judge anybody.
Right.
I am here to serve you, to help you, to expand you, to support you, but not support in a way like, yeah, it's all right.
Sure.
But ask questions. Okay, why? What, how are we feeling in that moment? What triggered that? But what happens though, through this process, through this evolution, our vision starts to expand, right?
Right.
With it triggers, because you could say something to me, Jennifer, like, what are you talking about? I just met you, but you could be somebody in my life that I felt disrespected from, and you might have said something that triggered me. Listen, I always said people will affect how you feel. We're human beings, but
Right.
it's our job to choose our behavior. So
Absolutely.
as you say that, if I can give myself space, permission to feel.
Sure.
I'm a little upset you said that.
Yeah.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
But then I have a choice of how I want to behave.
Absolutely.
So now when I'm able to do that, so I know in the face of adversity, right? Because life is not linear. There's going to be obstacles, challenges, hurdles, emergencies coming down the pipe. There's truth to that. I don't wish it, but it's going to happen, possibly.
Right.
I want to make sure the people that I help, that I coach, find their footing quickly, know to get off on maybe the first exit, but the second exit, and say, okay, I'm frustrated, I'm angry. What do I need to do here? To me, that's not reactive. That's being proactive.
Sure.
That's not react. That's a response, but it's going to serve them. And now you do that enough times. I have 2 kids, 2 gorgeous daughters, and how a 13-year-old can trigger me is beyond belief. Beyond.
I know they can. Mine's 26, and yes,
but they shouldn't though, right? The 13, 11,
right.
like I'm the caregiver, this, that.
Sure.
But you know what? Those triggers are coming from the past.
Absolutely.
But I've trained myself. I'm not perfect. Nobody is. But I'm always trying to get better.
I love that.
If they could say certain things, I'm
sure.
like, but then I just sit in my pocket. I'm like, all right, you're frustrated.
Yeah.
If I'm 75% of the time not good, I'm doing pretty well. I'm still a human being. I still will overreact sometimes.
Of course.
But I'll tell you one thing right now, the frequency of those, being conscious of how I want to behave is much less.
Sure.
Not perfect.
Sure.
Right? I think you're perfect when you're 6 feet under. There's nobody perfect.
Right.
But I'm getting better. Now, how does that tie into trading, being a CEO, C-suite? Everything. Because everything is connected. So if we really learn how to down-regulate, be aware, vocalize, right? Because if we don't say how we feel, it stays in the darkness.
Sure.
And it builds its own narratives, which are usually from the past, builds its own intensity. But to talk to someone, just verbalize it, hear it. Obviously, you can't see it, but you can see the experience.
Right.
It gives you more clarity, more space in making decisions. Now we can talk about breath work and visualization, because manifestation is real.
Agreed.
Coupled with visualization, we know there's profound research now in neuroscience. What we say is huge. How we see it is big, because we know it affects our neural network.
Sure.
Amazing. That's intellectual. But once you understand our emotional side, which develops before our intellect, we're in a great spot.
I love that. Well, Evan, I can't believe how much time has passed, but we've had a wonderful conversation. I'd love to chat with you again sometime. We've only started to strip away at the surface. There's so much more to talk about. As we close up, how can people get in touch with you? And maybe what's a parting thought you want everyone to think about as they aspire to inspire and motivate themselves to do something more, to find more satisfaction in life?
Small things are not inconsequential. Putting down a Snickers bar, if you want to get in shape, and actually putting it down and taking a walk, don't think that's small, because that's how things begin.
Right.
And as we start to build, you'll see the compounding effect really come into play. That's so important. These little things we do count. And I know it's cliche, but if you're able to give yourself a second to sit in a pocket and let this thing evolve, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, the conversation changes. It's so important. That's one. And two, how to find me. You guys, your team has done a great job, and I really appreciate it. It's m1performancegroup.com. My team's built a great website. I'm very proud of them, and I'm proud of what we've done. There is a discovery button or a tab on there where you can contact me. I am on LinkedIn. I put out content Monday, Wednesday, Friday with a little fun, and I do a podcast release during the weekend. And I'm also on LetterX, Twitter, and also Instagram.
And there's great videos on the website to get a little bit of inspiration, to learn a little bit more, just some tips, some secret sauce, if you will. You've given us so many great nuggets, Evan. You are an inspiration. I love that you took that leap of faith. I can tell from your energy that you're in such a great space. You're doing the work that you were absolutely made to do. Thank you for sharing your heart and your head and investing in that, taking that the time to learn the science behind it, because that's so critical as well. Evan Marks, you have been an incredible guest. Everyone that joined us, check him out, get connected on LinkedIn, check out all of his socials, lots of inspiration there. I'm your host, Jennifer Blalock, Dr. B, the Chief Energy Officer of Ingenuity Solutions. And you have been watching Aspire to Inspire and Embrace the Power Production. We're so glad you joined us, and we'll see you next time. Have a great evening, everyone.